Amid the rush of streets, a young woman hurries to a job interview that could change her family's future. Suddenly she notices an elderly man trembling, overlooked by the crowd. Torn between ambition and compassion, she stops to lead him to safety and in doing so misses her chance. What she doesn't realize is that the man is the father of a powerful CEO, and her single act of kindness will soon open a door she never imagined. Before diving into this story, tell us, what's the most unforgettable trip you've ever taken? Drop it in the comments. Maya Rodriguez stared at her reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror of her studio apartment in Queens. 24 years old, armed with a computer science degree from a state school and carrying debt that felt heavier than the humid New York morning pressing against her window. Her mother's medical bills sat unopened on the kitchen counter, a stack of white envelopes that had grown thicker each month since the cancer diagnosis. "You got this," she whispered to herself, adjusting the collar of her only interview suit. The fabric was slightly faded, but it was clean and pressed. Today was different. Today could change everything. Her phone buzzed, a text from her mom back in Phoenix. "Feeling good today, sweetheart. Go show them what my daughter can do." Maya's throat tightened. Her mother didn't know about the eviction notice tucked behind those medical bills. Didn't know Maya had been surviving on ramen noodles and hope for 3 weeks. Some burdens were meant to be carried alone. The subway ride to Manhattan felt eternal. Maya clutched her worn leather portfolio, reviewing her presentation notes for the 100th time. Technova Solutions, one of the fastest-growing startups in the city. The junior developer position wasn't glamorous, but it was a foot in the door. More importantly, it was $65,000 a year, enough to keep the lights on, enough to help her mother fight. "Next stop 42nd Street, the conductor announced. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. She emerged from the subway at 8:45. The interview was at 9:30. Perfect timing to grab a coffee, review her notes one last time, and walk into that office ready to prove she belonged there. The morning air carried the familiar symphony of New York: car horns, construction noise, the endless shuffle of people chasing their dreams. Maya had been part of that shuffle for 2 years now, ever since graduation. Part-time gigs, freelance projects that barely paid rent, and rejection emails that always started with "thank you for your interest." But today felt different. Today she'd worn her lucky earrings, the small silver hoops her grandmother had given her before she died. "For courage," Grandma had said. Maya turned onto 41st Street, checking her phone. 8:52, still good on time. That's when she saw him. An elderly man, maybe 75, stood at the crosswalk looking confused and distressed. His white button-down shirt was pressed but wrinkled from travel, his khaki pants bearing coffee stains. In his shaking hands he held a flip phone, the kind nobody used anymore, and his eyes darted frantically between the device and the street signs. When he spoke to passers-by, his voice carried the polite, formal cadence of an older generation. Most people walked past him. This was New York. Everyone had somewhere to be. Maya slowed her pace. The man looked genuinely lost. "Excuse me," she heard him say to a woman in a power suit. "I'm terribly sorry to bother you, but could you perhaps help me?" The woman didn't even break stride. Maya checked her phone again. 8:54. The responsible thing was to keep walking. She had exactly 36 minutes to grab coffee, find the building, check in with security, and compose herself before the most important interview of her life. But the man looked so helpless. His hands were shaking, not just with confusion, but with what looked like the early stages of something more serious. "Sir?" Maya approached him slowly. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" The man looked up, and she saw relief flood his weathered features. His eyes were sharp blue but worried. "Oh, thank goodness. I'm supposed to be at a very important meeting, and I'm terribly lost. My phone died, and these streets all look the same to me." Maya glanced at her phone. 8:56. "Where do you need to go?" "It's that tall glass building, near Bryant Park, I think. Or was it Grand Central?" He paused, his brow furrowing with concentration. "I'm supposed to meet my son there for a board meeting. Very important company business." The way he said board meeting and company business, not like someone unfamiliar with corporate life, but like someone who belonged in those rooms. Maya pulled out her phone and searched. "Can you remember the name of the building?" The man's face crumpled with frustration. "I wrote it down somewhere." He patted his pockets frantically. Goldman Building, Morrison Building. Oh dear, I can't remember. My son will be so worried. Maya felt her heart sink. This wasn't just someone needing directions. Do you have your son's phone number? Yes, it's in my phone, but the battery died. He held up the ancient flip phone. These new phones are beyond me. This one was complicated enough. Maya checked her phone again. 9 o'clock. Sir, I want to help you, but I need to be somewhere at 9:30. Oh no dear, please don't let me keep you. I'll figure something out. Maya looked at the lost expression on his face. She thought about her grandmother, who'd gotten confused toward the end. About all the elderly people who became invisible in a city that moved too fast to notice their struggles. She pulled out her phone and started typing quickly. Give me just a second, she said. Maya sent an email to Technova's HR department. Emergency situation, helping someone in assisting an elderly person in distress on the street. Maybe 30 minutes late. We'll call with updates soon. So sorry for any inconvenience. Maya Rodriguez. Then she put her phone away and focused on the man. Okay, let's think through this together. You said a glass building. Can you remember anything else? They spent the next 10 minutes working through the details. Finally his face lit up. Meridian, the Meridian Building, on Lexington Avenue. That's it. Maya's stomach dropped. The Meridian Building was 20 blocks southeast. I remember now, the man continued. My son David works there. He's having a crucial board meeting at 9:15 and I promised I'd be there. Maya looked at her phone. 9:10. Sir, that's quite far from here. And if your son's meeting is at 9:15? Oh no, the man's face went pale. I've ruined everything, haven't I? He's been planning this presentation for months. Maya saw the genuine anguish in his eyes. This wasn't just about being late to a meeting. Come on, Maya said, taking his arm gently. Let's get you to your son. Maya flagged down a taxi and helped the man into the back seat. As they pulled away from the curb, she gave the driver the address and watched the meter start running. $12 already. Maya had exactly $37 in her checking account. You're an angel, the man said. What's your name, dear? Maya Rodriguez. I'm Robert. Robert Hartwell. He paused, looking out the window. What were you rushing to this morning? Before you stopped to help a confused old fool. A job interview, actually. Pretty important one. Robert's face fell. Oh my goodness, and here I am making you late. What time was it? 9:30. Robert checked his watch with shaking hands. It's 9:20, the traffic looks terrible. Maya pulled out her phone and called Technova. This is Maya Rodriguez. I sent an email about being delayed. I'm helping someone get to a medical emergency and I'm sorry, the receptionist interrupted. We can't hold the interview slot. We have a very tight schedule today. Please, could you at least keep my resume on file? I know I messed up, but I'll make a note, but I can't make any promises. Maya hung up and stared at her phone. The opportunity she'd worked toward for months was slipping away in real time. I feel terrible about this, Robert said quietly. Don't. Maya surprised herself with how calm she sounded. I made a choice. The taxi meter climbed. $18, $22, $28. By the time they reached the Meridian Building, the meter read $31. Maya handed over all her cash except for $6, just enough for a Metro card refill to get home. The building's security guard looked up as they entered. Mr. Hartwell, there you are. Your son was getting worried. Let me escort you up. Maya watched the recognition in the guard's face, the immediate deference. This wasn't just any confused elderly man. Wait, Robert said, reaching into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a business card. My son's card. Perhaps he could help with that interview somehow. Maya took the card, glancing at it briefly. David Hartwell, Senior Vice President, Hartwell Industries. She was too focused on her ruined morning to process what that meant. Thanks, but I don't think anyone can help with this one. You never know, Robert said. Sometimes life has a way of surprising us. Maya watched him disappear into the elevator with the security guard, then stood alone in the marble lobby. She looked around at the expensive materials, the corporate art, the quiet hum of serious business being conducted. She walked outside and started the long journey to the nearest subway station, walking, because she'd spent her last $31 on a taxi for a stranger. The walk to the subway gave her time to think about what she'd just done. and what she was going to do now. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "How did it go, sweetheart?" Maya stared at the message for a long time before typing back, still waiting to hear. The subway ride back to Queens felt like a funeral procession. Maya sat in her interview suit, surrounded by afternoon commuters who all seemed to know where they were going and why. By the time she made it home, it was past 1 p.m. Maya sank onto her second-hand couch and allowed herself exactly 10 minutes to feel sorry for herself. Then she got up, changed clothes and started making calls. "Rosa's Diner. This is Maya Rodriguez. I know I'm not scheduled tonight, but do you have any shifts available?" "Maya, yeah, Jimmy called in sick. Can you be here by 5 for the dinner rush?" "I'll be there." Maya spent the afternoon walking around her neighborhood, dropping off resumes at every business that looked like it might need help. She also sent a follow-up email to Technova. "Dear hiring team, I want to be completely honest about this morning. I was delayed because I helped an elderly man with early-stage dementia find his way to an important meeting. I made the choice to prioritize someone who needed immediate help over my own professional opportunity. I understand and accept the consequences of missing the interview. I hope you'll consider my qualifications for future positions. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Maya Rodriguez." At 4:30 she put on her Rosa's Diner uniform and headed to work. The dinner shift was brutal. 8 hours on her feet, dealing with demanding customers and a kitchen that was perpetually behind on orders. Maya's back ached, her feet hurt, and she smelled like grease and regret. But it was money. $42 in tips, plus her hourly wage. She didn't get home until 2 a.m. Maya collapsed into bed still smelling like the fryer, too exhausted to shower. Her alarm went off at 8. Maya forced herself up, showered, and sat at her kitchen table with her laptop, methodically applying for jobs online. At 10:30, her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello, is this Maya Rodriguez?" "Yes, who's this?" "This is David Hartwell. I believe you helped my father yesterday." Maya's breath caught. "Is he okay? Did he make it to your meeting?" "He did, thanks to you. He walked into our boardroom 20 minutes late, apologizing profusely and telling everyone about the remarkable young woman who had saved his day." David's voice was warm but professional. "Maya, I'd like to meet with you if you're available." Yes, but why?" "I'll explain when we meet. Are you free this afternoon?" "Maya, my father has early-stage dementia. Yesterday's board meeting was crucial for our company, and when he didn't show up on time, I was frantic. I had no idea where he was." David paused. "When he finally arrived and told us what happened, I realized something important." "What's that?" "You had no idea who my father was, did you?" "Not until I saw your business card." "Exactly, you helped him because it was the right thing to do, not because you thought it would benefit you." David was quiet for a moment. "Maya, what kind of work do you do?" "I'm a software developer, or trying to be. I focus on user experience and interface design. Would you be interested in coming in for a conversation?" "Not exactly an interview, more of a discussion about a project we're working on." Maya stared at her laptop screen, afraid to hope. "What kind of project?" "Technology solutions for aging populations. We're trying to build products that actually serve seniors instead of frustrating them." David paused. "The challenge is most of our developers don't really understand the problems older adults face. Yesterday, you demonstrated exactly the kind of perspective we need. When would you want to meet?" "How about tomorrow afternoon?" 2 o'clock. Maya spent the rest of the day researching Hartwell Industries. What she found made her dizzy. The company was massive: technology, healthcare, real estate, annual revenue in the billions, and David Hartwell wasn't just an SVP, he was being groomed as the eventual CEO. The next afternoon, Maya stood in the lobby of the Hartwell Industries building. It was even more impressive than the Meridian building, 50 floors of glass and steel reaching toward the sky. David Hartwell's office was enormous, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. The man himself was younger than Maya had expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes and an easy smile. "Maya, thank you for coming." He stood up from behind a desk that probably cost more than her annual rent. "Please, sit down." Maya sat in one of the leather chairs facing his desk, trying not to think about how out of place she felt. "First, I want to thank you again for what you did for my father," David said. "He means everything to me, and watching him struggle with his independence has been difficult. I can imagine, it must be really hard. Yesterday was particularly challenging because he was supposed to present our new senior care initiative to the board. When he got confused about the location, I thought we'd lost our chance." David leaned forward, but then he walked in and delivered one of the most compelling presentations I've ever heard. About what? About dignity. About how technology should serve people, not confuse them. About the importance of treating seniors as individuals with decades of experience, not problems to be solved. David smiled. He said he learned it from a young woman who treated him like a person worth helping. Maya felt her cheeks warm. "He's a remarkable man." "He is. And he's also the majority shareholder of this company." David stood up and walked to the window. "Maya, I've been looking for someone to head up our senior technology initiative. Someone with technical skills, but more importantly someone who understands that technology is about people." Maya's pulse quickened. "What would that involve?" "Leading a small pilot project first. 90 days to prove the concept with real users, real metrics." David turned back to face her. "If it works, we'd expand it into a full division." "What kind of timeline?" "First 30 days user research and prototype development. Days 31 to 60. Pilot testing with 50 senior users. Days 61 to 90 analysis and recommendations." David sat back down. "At the end of 90 days, if the metrics support it, we'd offer you a permanent position leading the team." Maya felt like the room was spinning. "What about salary during the pilot?" "Consultant rate. $75 an hour, 40 hours a week. If you convert to permanent, we'd start you at $85,000 plus equity." Maya did the math quickly. 75 times 40 times 12 weeks was $36,000, more than she'd made in the past year combined. "But I don't have experience leading projects." "You have something better. You have empathy, and yesterday you proved you'll put people before personal gain." David pulled out a folder. "I've reviewed your portfolio, your GitHub contributions, your professor recommendations. You're talented, Maya. The question is, are you ready for the challenge?" Maya thought about her mother fighting cancer, about the eviction notice on her kitchen counter, about the night shift at Rosa's diner, about Robert Hartwell confused and lost on a street corner. "What happens if I fail?" "Then you fail. The pilot ends, we pay you for your time, and you'll have 90 days of experience at one of the largest companies in the country." David smiled. "But I don't think you're going to fail." "Why not?" "Because you already passed the most important test. You chose to help when it cost you something important. Everything else is just execution." Maya looked out at Central Park, thinking about all the choices that had led her to this moment. "I'm interested," she said. "Excellent. You'll be working with Sarah Kim, our VP of Product Development. She'll be your mentor during the pilot." David handed her the folder. "Your first assignment is in there. Background research, user interview guidelines, success metrics." Maya opened the folder and saw pages of detailed project specifications, budget allocations and timeline milestones. This wasn't charity. This was a real job with real expectations. "When do I start?" "Monday morning, 8 a.m. Maya spent the weekend in a state of disbelief mixed with terror. This was the opportunity she'd dreamed of, but it came with pressure she'd never experienced. Failing at Rosa's diner meant spilled coffee. Failing here meant disappointing a company that was giving her a chance she hadn't earned through traditional channels. Monday morning arrived gray and drizzly. Maya stood outside the Hartwell Industries building at 7:45, wearing her interview suit and carrying a new notebook she'd bought with her diner tips. Sarah Kim met her in the lobby, a sharp, efficient woman in her 40s who got straight to business. "Maya, welcome to the team. I've read David's notes about your project. Are you ready to get started?" They rode the elevator to the 38th floor, where Maya met her pilot team, 2 junior developers, a UX designer, and a data analyst. All of them had more traditional experience than she did. "Maya will be leading our senior user experience pilot," Sarah announced to the group. "She'll be working directly with end users to understand their needs and design solutions accordingly." Maya felt the weight of their skeptical stares. She was the youngest person in the room, with the least corporate experience, leading a project for users older than anyone on the team. "Where do we start?" asked Josh, one of the developers. Maya looked around the conference room, whiteboard covered in technical specifications, laptops displaying interface mockups, charts showing user acquisition funnels. We start by admitting we don't know what we're talking about, Maya said. The room went quiet. I mean it. We're all under 40, building technology for people over 65. When's the last time any of us spent meaningful time with someone that age, learning about their daily challenges? We have user surveys, the UX designer said defensively. Written by who? Reviewed by who? Distributed how? Maya walked to the whiteboard. My first assignment for all of us this week, each team member spends at least 4 hours with someone over 70, not interviewing them, just being with them, watching how they interact with technology in their normal environment. That seems inefficient, Josh said. Efficient for who? Maya asked. For us or for the people we're supposed to be helping? Over the following weeks, Maya threw herself into understanding their users with an intensity that surprised her team. She visited senior centers, sat in on tech support calls, and spent hours observing how older adults navigated websites and apps. What she learned challenged everything she thought she knew. Margaret, 78, wasn't confused by technology. She was frustrated by interfaces designed for different physical abilities. Her arthritis made small touch targets painful to use. Frank, 82, avoided online banking not because he didn't understand security, but because the systems assumed he could remember details from decades ago. Eleanor, 74, had been a computer programmer in the 1970s but felt excluded by modern interfaces that talked down to her. We're not building for deficits, Maya told her team after 2 weeks of research. We're building for different capabilities and preferences. Their first prototype tested terribly. Maya watched Frank struggle with their simplified interface for 5 minutes before he gave up in frustration. The buttons are bigger, but they still don't make sense, he said. Why do I need to click shares to call my daughter? Why can't the button just say call Sarah? Maya felt her stomach sink. They'd made everything bigger and brighter, but they hadn't made it more meaningful. Back to the drawing board, she told her team. We're running out of time, Josh warned. We're 3 weeks into the pilot. We're not running out of time, we're learning. Maya looked around the room. Would you rather ship something that doesn't work or take the time to build something that does? The second prototype was different. Instead of generic actions like share and connect, buttons were labeled with specific intentions. Call my son, send photo to grandchildren, schedule doctor visit. Instead of assuming users wanted the latest features, Maya's team focused on the most common tasks and made them effortless. The difference was dramatic. In their 50-user pilot test, engagement rates were triple what they'd seen with the first version. More importantly, users were actually accomplishing their goals. This is promising, Sarah said during their 6-week review meeting. But the CFO is asking hard questions about cost per acquisition and lifetime value. Seniors aren't traditionally big spenders on technology. Maya had been dreading this conversation. What kind of numbers does he want to see? Customer acquisition cost under $50, lifetime value over $300, and evidence that this demographic will actually pay for premium features. Maya spent the next week diving into data she'd never had to analyze before. Healthcare utilization patterns, medication adherence rates, family communication frequency. What she found surprised everyone. Seniors aren't valuable as technology consumers, Maya presented to the executive team. They're valuable as healthcare consumers. Our users show a 20% increase in medication adherence and a 15% reduction in emergency room visits. That's worth thousands of dollars per year to insurance companies. David leaned forward. You're suggesting a B2B model. I'm suggesting we solve the right problem. Seniors want to maintain their independence and stay connected to their families. Healthcare systems want to reduce costs and improve outcomes. Our platform does both. The CFO looked skeptical. Where's the revenue? Healthcare partnerships. Insurance companies will pay for platforms that demonstrably improve health outcomes. Adult children will pay for services that help them care for aging parents remotely. Maya clicked to her next slide. Our pilot users generated an average of $400 in healthcare savings per quarter. Scale that across our target market, and we're looking at a $100 million opportunity. The room was quiet for a moment. Impressive analysis, the CFO said. How confident are you in these projections? Confident enough to stake my permanent employment on them. Maya said. 3 months after she'd missed her Technova interview, Maya stood on stage at the Senior Technology Conference in Las Vegas. Her 90-day pilot had not only succeeded, it had exceeded every metric David had set. But her biggest test was still ahead of her. Our final presenter today is Maya Rodriguez from Hartwell Industries, the conference moderator announced. She'll be discussing their human-centered approach to senior technology. Maya walked onto the stage, looking out at an audience of 800 people. Healthcare executives, technology leaders, and yes, plenty of seniors who were tired of being talked about instead of talked to. In the front row she spotted Robert Hartwell, his face beaming with pride. How many of you have ever had a young person try to help you with technology? Maya began. Hundreds of hands went up, accompanied by knowing laughter. And how many of you have had that young person get frustrated when you didn't understand something immediately? Even more hands. That's because we've been approaching this problem backwards. We assume that older adults need simpler technology, but what you actually need is more intentional technology. Maya walked through their research process, their design philosophy, and most importantly, the users who had guided every decision. But then came the challenge she'd been preparing for. "I have a question," said a man in the third row. Maya recognized him as the CEO of Age Tech Solutions, Hartwell's biggest competitor. "Your approach sounds lovely, but how do you scale human-centered research? How do you maintain that personal touch when you're serving millions of users instead of 50? This was the moment Maya had been dreading and preparing for in equal measure. "Great question," Maya said. "And you're right that our initial pilot was small and resource-intensive. But we didn't stop there." Maya clicked to her next slide, showing a complex diagram of their scaled research process. "We now have a panel of 200 senior collaborators across 12 cities. All collaborators are compensated. IRB-style consent and de-identified logs are used for analysis. They're paid consultants who review every design decision, test every feature, and provide ongoing feedback through structured protocols." She clicked again. "We've also developed design guidelines that any developer can follow, specific button sizes, color contrasts, language patterns, and interaction models that work for older adults. It's not about empathy, it's about systems." "And the cost?" "Our research budget is 3% of development costs. In exchange we have 92% user satisfaction and 68% 6-month retention." Maya paused. "How do your numbers compare?" The room was silent. Age Tech's retention rates were publicly known to be much lower. Finally, Maya continued, "We're open sourcing our research guidelines. Because this isn't about competitive advantage, it's about building technology that actually serves the people who use it." The applause was sustained and genuine. During the networking session afterward, Maya found herself surrounded by healthcare organizations wanting to partner, investors asking about expansion plans, and most importantly, seniors thanking her for building something that actually worked. But the conversation that mattered most came from Robert Hartwell himself. "You did something remarkable up there," he said, his voice clearer than it had been that confused morning on the street corner. "You showed them that we're not problems to be solved. We're people to be understood." "I learned that from you," Maya said. Robert smiled. "No, dear. You knew it already. I just gave you a chance to prove it." 6 months later, Maya sat in David's office, looking out at Central Park. Her pilot had grown into a division of 15 people. Their platform was being used by over 20,000 seniors across 6 states. Healthcare partners were reporting measurable improvements in patient outcomes. "Maya, I want to talk to you about the next phase," David said. "What did you have in mind?" "We want to expand beyond senior technology, apply your human-centered approach to all our healthcare products." David leaned forward. "It would mean leading a team of 40 people, a budget of $15 million, and oversight of our entire digital health strategy." Maya felt that familiar flutter of imposter syndrome. "I've only been here 6 months, and in that time you've built our most successful healthcare product, not just by revenue metrics, but by actual impact." David smiled. "The question is, are you ready for the challenge?" Maya thought about that morning 7 months ago when she'd stood at a crosswalk, watching a confused old man and calculating the cost of compassion. She thought about her mother, whose cancer treatment had been paid for by Maya's Hartwell health insurance. She thought about Margaret and Frank and Eleanor, users who had become collaborators, then advocates, then friends. She thought about all the people they hadn't reached yet, all the problems they hadn't solved, all the assumptions still waiting to be challenged. "I'm ready," Maya said. That evening, Maya called her mother to share the news. "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart," her mother said. "But can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you just walked past that man that morning?" Maya looked out her apartment window, a much nicer apartment now, with working heat and no eviction notices. "Sometimes," Maya admitted. "But then I think about something my grandmother used to say." "What's that?" "She said the most important opportunities don't look like opportunities. They look like interruptions. And I've learned that the person you choose to be when no one's watching, that's who you really are. Everything else is just circumstances." Her mother was quiet for a moment. "You chose to be the person you wanted to be. I chose to be the person you and Grandma raised me to be." As Maya hung up, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She'd thought that morning was about choosing between her future and a stranger's need. But it turned out she'd been wrong about the choice entirely. She hadn't sacrificed her future to help Robert Hartwell, she'd discovered it. The real lesson wasn't about karma or cosmic justice or good deeds being rewarded. It was simpler and more complex than that. It was about understanding that opportunities don't always announce themselves. Sometimes they come disguised as inconveniences, as interruptions to your plans, as moments when you have to choose between what you want and what you know is right. Maya had made that choice on a busy Manhattan street corner. She'd made it again when she chose to rebuild her failed prototype instead of shipping something that didn't work. She'd made it every time she chose to listen to users instead of assuming she knew better. And she'd keep making it, one small decision at a time, as she built technology that served people instead of the other way around. Outside her window, the city hummed with its endless energy, millions of people making choices, chasing dreams, helping strangers, or walking past them. Maya knew which kind of person she wanted to be. She'd known it the moment she stopped walking and asked if an old man needed help. Everything else was just the consequence of that choice, rippling outward in ways she never could have imagined. And it was only the beginning.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.